We're going live. Welcome to Voltage Control Lab, the final spring break edition. And this is voltagecontrollab.com, at vcontrollab on Twitter, at Voltage Control Lab on Instagram. And my name is Joe. I'm a producer and educator, and I teach at Musicians Institute in Los Angeles and Icon Collective in Burbank, and all online now. So good to see you guys here. HR just received a box full of modules, apparently. Santa, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And everyone else who's just come in here, I'm going to try not to spill my coffee today. We've got one cat in the back under air humping maths. I think we've got, oh, that's the only cat right now. So, Dennis, good to see you. And so I figured, for the last day, let's do some music and we can talk through a live patch and we'll basically build a performable patch of some kind, a few channels, few different pieces of something, and kind of walk through the process, discuss the process, patching from scratch into something. We'll see how much we can get into, and maybe use some of the excuse me, some of the things that we've been talking about the past many weeks, and make something musical together. Um, the Currently there is a poll on the YouTube channel under the community section about whether we should schedule our future shows earlier or later than we currently do them. We're not going to be doing daily shows so much anymore because I have to teach in this particular hour. So I figure we'll do a few shows a week. We'll still be doing our Saturday noon show. That is still going to be Mod City. And we're going to maybe do I don't know, maybe Tuesday morning or evening, Thursday morning or evening, something like that. And keep doing some of the shows and topics that we've been touching on bit by bit the last few weeks, kind of, figuring on what has been fun and enjoyable and interactive the last couple of weeks, and how we can make this sustainable going forward. So, if you have any thoughts on that, please share. Please don't hesitate to shoot a comment my way or something in the chat, or you can send us a message on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. Instagram is probably better. But nonetheless, we're going to keep the shows to a certain degree going a few times a week. Those are going to be the scheduled ones. There might still be like impromptu other ones. I know I shared the idea of doing a, uh, you know, chat Q&A type of thing while we all play video games together. We'll see if that comes about. I might need a little bit of technical setup for that. But anyway, we're going to get into that business, and then, we'll see where that takes us in future shows. Um, yeah, I'd like to keep doing it at noon, but it's just the scheduling and having uh, classes to teach. It makes it a difficult time. So, but we will still, of course, be doing the live stream at maybe different hours, but it'll still also be archived as the ones so far have been. So hopefully we'll see who can make it and when, and let us at least know what's better or worse for you in the poll or in the chat. Um, okay, Jin, what's up? Thanks for coming in. All right, let's move over to the system and start patching something. Any thoughts on what we should patch? I'm just going to try to blow up the chat here a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Okay, that's better. And let's move over to the right view. Okay, so I figure maybe we can move around this thing. Um, let's talk about as we go what we're doing, how these, how we're going to conceptualize some of this stuff. So I have a portable system that has some effects and um, quad VCA and a mute module over here. And so things are going to probably, to a certain degree, route back around through here. We've got ripples, warps, micro clouds in the form of U burst, micro burst here, and then veils and 4 channels of mutes here, though I've pushed this one apparently so many times that I have to catch it just right. It does actually mute, but it's more of a momentary mute button now. I think I need to open it up and try to fix it. But if I hit it just right, it'll actually mute. We'll worry about that later. I've got the voltage block, which will do a bunch of sequences. We've got the upside down ornament and crime, gates and clocks coming from the pulsar, potentially, or pulses anyway. And the bassimilus could be a good drum. The beehive, which is basically plates. So, a few things that we can use over there. And got the DU sequencer over here. Got a couple more mutable modules. Got some make noise stuff up there. Some Sputnik and Muffin-Z stuff over here. Big up to Muffin-Z. Go buy their last modules. They're selling out, and some of these really cool open source modules they make are kind of in their last days of availability. So, and I can't speak highly enough of some of these modules, like the GMO, really cool sample-based module. There's a ton of libraries that you can download for it. Oh, Sherry, what's up? How you doing? Okay, so let's patch something up. Where should we start? Maybe with a nice big kick drum, something like that. Okay, so for kick drums, who likes kick drums? Voltage block and pulsar. Okay, we'll use that. I think let's bring the camera over here. And bring it up a bit. Try not to get you too seasick here. Okay, so we'll go with that for now. Let's get something patched up here. So let's try. Well, let's go with my favorite kick drum to start with, at least. I like ripples as a kick drum, and ripples is a filter, low pass filter, and so this is ripples. We're going to send it an envelope. We're not going to send anything to the input. So ripples has filter control, resonance, and then an FM input. And we have here's like this is frequency modulation control over the filter frequency. So normally you would send an input into this channel, Maybe you can see that. And the outputs here, there's a band pass, a low pass 2, and a low pass 4 output. And then there's a low pass 4 with a built-in VCA, and we can send a signal into this gain CV input to control the VCA. So we have essentially a built-in VCA inside of this filter circuit. We could, of course, use a low pass filter sort of as a um, low pass gate sort of thing. But um, with no input, we can bump the resonance up and it'll start self resonating, self oscillating. So we can send envelopes into, say, the gain input. I'm going to need a longer cable there. We're going to send one envelope into the gain input, one envelope into the FM input. We could send this envelope into the frequency input, filter frequency control input, but we can control how much we can attenuate and invert that envelope signal using that FM input. So, and now we'll get a pulse coming over here from one channel on pulsar, which each of these channels are in Euclidean rhythm mode right now. And I'm going to send this signal into trigger envelope 1 on the quad envelope down here. Okay, and the quad envelope we can set to fast, slow, or tempo-based length. So what I might do is take the clock out of the pulsar and send that into the clock in. No, let's not do that. We're not going to send the clock in there. But we will take envelope 2, and I think we can make it follow the input on envelope 1. So we'll make sure those are both set to fast. And now we're seeing an indication on that channel, or maybe I have to do that. Oh yeah, hold channel 1 and then hit channel 2. That makes the channel 2 envelope follow the gate coming in on channel 1, or the pulse as the case may be. Okay, so 2 envelopes being triggered by 1 pulse. So they start at the same time. One of them is going to control the filter frequency, one of them is going to control the VCA volume. And then we'll take the output of that and we'll send it to the mixer. Or the VCA, quad VCA, basically. I don't know why it looks so dark. Okay, so let's unmute that channel. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a click. We need to turn up the resonance. As we turn up the resonance, maybe you guys can hear that click. Part of that is that these envelope lengths are really short. Okay, and we'll turn up that resonance. Okay, so I've turned up the resonance, and then I turn up the FM, the FM attenuator. At a certain point, when the resonance is turned up to maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock, we start getting this resonating tone. And if we didn't have the envelopes patched in there, then it would just be a constant sine wave, basically. So envelope 1 here is going to be controlling the volume. Envelope 2 is going to control the frequency, but I have to dial in the initial frequency of the filter. And then as I dial in the FM attenuverter, now we need to and just listening to it on my speakers here. You know, trying to get this nice and dumpy. It's pretty good. Okay, what's next? Let's try something with the voltage block and the pulsar. Okay, let's take a clock from pulsar. We're going to send that to the clock in on I don't think there are perfect signs in the analog world. Um, I think this is probably the closest we'll get. This is basically how, if you wanted to work on a mini Moog and get a sine wave, you'd use the resonating filter, maybe. It's one way. Um, so, and I don't know that it's a perfect sine. Again, I don't know that such a thing exists in nature, but okay. So here we now have a clock that I've multed to the voltage block, and so it should be receiving a clock. And okay. So let's take another channel. Let's take the out on plates, micro plates here. Let's send it not directly to the mixer. Let's send it to micro clouds over here. And then we're going to send that out to the mixer. Just going to do it mono. I don't know that stereo will even come through right now. So, okay, so we have a signal coming in. And if we turn this up, yep, so we got the dry signal, the cloudy signal. Okay, so let's take this thing and we're going to, now it has kind of a VCA of its own built in, so maybe we can take a sequence from the voltage block. Let's just take the output sequence from channel 8 on the voltage block into the 1 volt per octave input. And let's shift. And I'm going to hit random. So I went into the shift mode, which allows us to control any of the 8 or all 8 of these channels. I'm just going to choose the 8th channel. I'm going to hit random. That's pretty extreme. So let's take that for a moment. And we're going to tweak this patch a little bit. We're going to take that same clock sequence, clock signal. I'm going to send it into, let's see, channel 4, our 4th quad envelope. And I'll come out of that envelope into the level input on plates. Now I can control this envelope. In theory. Not getting very short. let's give it, instead of that clock, let's just send it a separate sequence. Let's see. Might have been. Okay. So, as we've mentioned in the past, there's this VCA low pass gate thing, that this virtual low pass gate that you can access by holding the timbre button and turning the timbre or morph knobs, and those were turned all the way up. So the internal envelopes were super long, and now we turn those all the way down. Oh. And now we can control this with this envelope that we've routed into the level input. More control. Pulsar is basically just sending some gate patterns and a clock to the sequencer. And David, I don't know that one thing is better than the other. I like the internal trigger function on plates. Super useful and somewhat controllable, as long as you can. I mean, it's kind of hard on this particular version of it because it's so tiny. But I think the auto coloring and stuff on this particular camera is a little bit funky. So, what else could we do here? We could change the length of these patterns. That might be nice. That's maybe one small thing we could do. Let's take this this pattern length. We could set it to 8. Now we're hearing it as like a 16-step pattern, but it might be because this gate pattern is a little more active. Let's listen. Yeah, so, and that's just half the notes. If we go all 16 16th notes. So we have an 8-step sequence that's repeating. And if we listen to all 16 16th notes in the pattern, we hear that 8-step sequence repeating twice, each bar, as we could think of it. And if we take that down to a smaller number of gate divisions per bar, this is kind of getting into Euclidean rhythms and how these things work, which we have a video about that on our website. Instead of each of the 16th notes, if we basically insert rests in there, especially an odd number of notes and rests, all of a sudden might sound like a longer sequence, because we're not hearing the simple 8-step or an exact repetition over those 16 steps. Now we're hearing, let's go back to where we were, this one. That's like, what, 10 steps? 9 steps. And, this is one of those areas where a longer sequence, or even a short sequence, depending on the number of gates you're using, might sound a lot more complicated or interesting. Let's go down to like 5 steps. Yeah, 16 steps is boring. that's that's where it's not the most exciting. We could also add maybe a little bit of like swing to this or something using the gate delay down here. Um, okay, so that's some cool stuff. And we could that's just 2 parts. That's like, hardly scratching the surface yet. So, see, it's good for a momentary, but I broke it in practice. Getting ready for the Southern California Synth Society show at NAMM. If I push it hard, yeah, there you go. See, push it hard enough at the right time, I can get it to switch back off. If anyone out there knows how to fix that, shoot me a fix. Okay, so we got a couple of things happening now. We got a kick drum. We got still a boring voice, right? Let's actually go back to that because this is still kind of dull. It's kind of cool because with the short 5-step repeating sequence and the envelope length, it's kind of just letting enough of the length of each note through, or a little longer than each note, and so it almost sounds like there's a delay from the preceding time through. It's like a really quiet feedback or something. If we extend the decay time, cool side effect of having a short sequence and then an odd repeating sequence of gates turning on and off those 5 different notes at weird times. Here, maybe it would help if I put more of this on the actual screen instead of like the dead space of the case. That would be sensible. So we have a 5-step sequence going on here. Up on the pulsar, we've got a 7-step broken rhythm across 16 steps, dialed in on a Euclidean rhythm type of mode on the pulsar. Um, let's take another one of these sequences, like sequence 7 on the voltage block, and let's send it up to control one of the tone modulating functions on plates, like the timbre or the morph or the harmonics mode. So I'll go into that output 7, go into the timbre control for now. And we could go out of shift mode and I could just move that slider. It will record the position across the 16 steps as the clock is moving. So now it recorded a pattern. We can shift, clear that. You can see up at the top the red light indicating when the sequence goes high. Okay, we could also go into that shift mode and clear that and randomize it. And we can increase the range of that modulation by altering the internal attenuverter on plates. So we're getting like some syncopation at least. Even if it's not swung, it feels a little funkier just because some of those odd, weak beat divisions in between the kick drum quarter notes are being accented every once in a while. I love the voltage block, and we can even use it. I often use it as almost like just a CV offset for controlling the ornament and crime. Um, one of my favorite modes in ornament and crime is quantermain mode, which is quad quantizers, right? 4 different channels of signal quantizing, fitting signals that are coming in from external into a musical scale. But that mode also has a function that allows us to turn each channel into a Turing machine, which we have a video about the quad Turing machine function in there. But that's probably my favorite function in Ornament and Crime. I need another Ornament and Crime because I also love peaked mode. We used the what's the mode that generates the weird 8-bit Viznutcracker. We used that live at the Google AI event last year that we played as with my group, the Blessed Oscillator, with Victor, our co-host, usually, and Dave Haro, and just as kind of like a weird ambient texture generator, sending that through clouds. That was a really cool effect from Ornament and Crime as a tone generator, I suppose. But the my favorite mode is really the Quantermain mode because it can be a quad Turing machine, and that plus voltage block is really cool because you can have it kind of control even through a sequence. It's cool because you can have it turning on and off when the Turing machine is randomizing within a sequence. So every bar or every 4 bars, you can send a sequence or a CV high CV basically, and it will start randomizing into a new or evolving into a new pattern, and then it will freeze that pattern, and then 4 bars later you can have it evolve that pattern again with some random probability and then evolve it again and do it in this really interesting and weird way. So, anyway, voltage block. 8 channels of 16 step sequences. Each one can independently be controlled in terms of length, in terms of pattern, in terms of scale. We can tell that note pattern to fit into a scale. I can't remember which scales are which. Can't remember how to get into the scale. Anyway, we can mute patterns. Oh, I'm so dumb. I should have used that mute function in live show. I don't know why I didn't. So now we're controlling the settings for our timbre sequence. Oh, I muted it. That's why. Okay, so there's something happening there. Let's do some hi-hats like Bazzi says up there. Okay. All right, I like to do my hi-hats with the Basimilus because we can do some pretty destructive manipulation of the hi-hats. So, yeah, Ornament and Crime is really cool, Batador. Maybe we will use it in this particular patch for the hi-hats. Come on, quiet. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Just have to hit it right. Okay. Let's take a sequence, again, from Pulsar. We're going to go into the trigger input on the Basimilus. Do it on channel 2. Okay, and channel 2 is not in Euclidean mode. It's in random gate mode. So as I turn the big knob to the left or right, it starts to add another step in the sequence, but it adds it randomly around that sequence. It's not really according to any particular pattern. So, okay. Let's take, okay, so that thing is being triggered now, in theory. Let's see. Oh, we don't have any steps. There we go. Okay. Let's send it out to channel 3 over here. I'm going to save warps. I was going to use it as a delay, but let's send this out to channel 3. We'll unmute channel 3. Okay, so there's the Basimilus right now. Let's set this up into metal mode in treble register. And let's send it some other sequences. I'm going to send a clock into Ornament and Crime. Thought I was. Okay, we might be stepping actually, and then we need to send some CV into it. So it's looking for CV into input 1, 2, and 3. So send that in there. A little bit hard to tell. A little bit hard to reach in here, rather. It's hard to tell if this thing is moving when everything is flat. So once we get a signal moving here, okay, we're going to hit Shift. Oops. Not frozen. That's weird. Maybe it's looking at the, okay, that's what it was. It reverses the inputs. Help if I remember that. Okay, so there we go. Now, once this keeps going, once this gets going, we're going to see it. Yeah, inverted for ease of patching. You notice most of my modules in this case on the bottom row have their patch points at the top, with the exception of the gate delay over here. And most of the ones on top have their patch points at the bottom. So it's all a matter of trying to keep it, you know, in a sensible range there. Okay, so there we can kind of see the ornament and crime screen. Now, if I turn up, what is it? One of these is the range, one of them is randomize. And we're going to route the outputs, the CV outputs now up to control the Basimilus. And all 4 channels are slightly different lengths. To turn up those knobs to really hear them do anything. And let's see. Okay, and some of these are going at like clock divided rates. Let's change that. Send another cable up to the pitch. And maybe sequence. Choose that sequence. Randomize it. Ah, that's how you change the scale. Okay, so I chose the my last channel 8 over here, which is doing our pitch change, our pitch sequence. And if I switch to scale and I move the slider now, we'll see the button indicator lights shift up and down, choosing one of the 16 scales. And I can't remember the order, but we'll just find one that sounds cool. Sounds pretty cool. Maybe we'll send maybe an LFO up to control the decay time on our hi-hat sequence. There we go. That's a little bit better. Come back and randomize the sequence. Okay, how about something else to this? Maybe let's get the maths involved somehow here. Um, so maybe I'll take our clock, send it up to let's see here. Send it up here into our make noise system. I don't color code my cables, and I like it. I like it uncolor coded. Looks bland to me if it's done to some sort of scheme. Half the fun is that it looks like a giant mess of crayons. And actually, I know some people have a preference to, these are going to be gates, these are going to be something else, these are going to be, um, you know, audio signals, things like this. I understand that. I know other people who just use all the same color. And if I'm looking at a patch trying to demystify it or understand it, it almost never matters to me. I have a really hard time just with the jumble of cables, whatever color they are. And so this way, at least, I can kind of trace one color in a mix. There's not a bunch of red stuff all in one place usually. There's not a bunch of, you know, Andrew from Qubit uses all white cables. ugh, it like makes it very difficult to see, to visualize and understand what the patch is. My eyes just cross. But that maybe is just a hang up of my own. I have a hard time looking at other people's patches in general. It starts to like make my make my brain hurt a little bit. Um, so, but you know, no, more power to you if uh, um, color coding helps. I personally, it it makes it harder for me to see what's happening. Um, okay, so we got a something happening, Renee, up here. Let's get another signal coming back down. Oh, maybe we won't even get the signal come back down yet. Let's go. We'll come out of the Optimix up here and just patch that in. That way we have a place to go. And we have a channel turned on. Okay. So up here, I'm thinking we're going to take, let's see if we can get a little bit better view. Okay, that's better, somewhat. Okay, so we're going to take that uh, sequence. Let's maybe do one of our maths patches that we were talking about this week. I like the complex oscillator coming out of Max, or maths, not Max. Max too, but we're going to take this maths channel. We're going to cycle both channels, and we're going to route. I've routed my headphone cable somehow under my. That's all kinds of messed up. I'm free. All right. So we're going to take Renee and maybe we'll have it patch up to control. Now we could take the QCV output, but this isn't going to be a quantized sequence, and the oscillator that receives it isn't going to be quantized either because maths is not a 1 volt per octave instrument. So, however, we can modulate the both input, and it's going to change the speed of the rise and fall time, maintaining a shape and changing the frequency of this cycling signal. So maybe we'll send that out to our MMG next door here, and then we'll route out of the MMG up to the MMG is the make noise filter, one of the make noise filters. There's also the Q pass. Okay, and come out of the output on the MMG up to our Optimix. And let's see if we can hear this. Turn that down. Coming out of the right output. Yes. Let's try. That should be. What am I doing wrong? Mm, mm. Okay, let's try. And let's actually come out of the non-QCV output. Okay, and let's recall, we've got a sequence going now. Sequence out into the both input on one cycling channel, and then that channel output we could, of course, also, as we were trying to do a moment ago, come out of that output. Okay, and now, maybe instead of going into that both input, let's take that same CV output signal and go up into channel 2 up here. And then we'll route out of the sum output into that both input. And let's turn up the signal. And as we turn up that channel 2 input control, we'll maybe make this in the bass range. Okay, that's too low. Okay, we might have to tune this in a minute, but we can also turn on the cycling on channel 4 and turn up the channel 4 attenuverter. And as we do that, we're going to start frequency modulating this signal. As that looping cycling channel is added to the sum output, it's going to be modulating the frequency of the pattern coming in. Let's loop it first. We could take another sequence. We could take like the quantized version of that sequence, send it to the both input on channel 4. Hats 2, please. We take the gate output from Renee and we use it to strike the Optimix, right? We turn the Optimix down. Now we got a built-in little DCA up there, or LPG, really, low pass gate. Okay, now we need to tune our bass to our main sequence. There's a lot of FM going on. Okay, let's get another sequence going here. Let's get this clock multed. We'll send that same clock sequence to brains, which is sequencing pressure points. And we'll take one of those sequences and send it up to channel 3 on mass. And we'll make this a different number of steps, like let's have it reset its own gates. Let's see. Oh yeah, you guys can sort of see that. We'll send the gate output to reset on the third gate. And I have this sequential switch up here, which we could route that out. Send a few of the channels on pressure points and analog memory into sequential switch channels. And we'll tell it 3 steps. Go off. Okay, just gonna do that then. Okay. And then we'll take, what is it, the TE trigger gate out? Is that what does it? I think we just have to this should be like a 9-step sequence. Something like that. And then times a 4-step sequence. Let's get this more modulation happening here. Let's say, let's clock the woggle bug. The woggle bug is a random generator, stepped random, smooth random, noise. And we'll route that up to open and close that filter a bit. We could even have it tweaking the mode. And then might as well get the DPO going here. Okay, maybe we'll take this funky random gate output that controls, or that's coming out of the woggle bug. We'll route the DPO up through that. That's this. And then we'll use some other modulation. Yeah, we have the MMG moving a little bit now. But now we got to get the... get the modulation bus going on the DPO. Maybe we'll get weird now. I could take modulation orgy out. Not a make noise module, but let's get a clock up to that. let's see. The last part of this. Let's see. This cable will reach. Wow, barely. Send that through its own mixer. Excuse me. Getting hungry. Down there. Whoop. Cables flying everywhere. Okay, so this last one I'm gonna send. Oops, sorry. Last one I'm gonna send the Mofenzief GMO, which is already kind of a lo-fi style drum machine sampler. I'm going to send it into freeze from 2 HP. Okay, so in this one, in GMO, we have a bank of like Indian drums right now. This knob controls what sample. This knob controls pitch. Start time, end time. Okay, so I need to find another clock. Aha. Okay, I can come down from the modulation orgy, maybe. Second to reach. Nope. Try another cable. Okay, so coming down from the modulation orgy, we'll clock the DU sequencer. That's just down here. And this is another module that does not really follow, what's the word I'm looking for? 1 volt per octave. And in fact, we don't need this clock anymore. We can just take the clock out of this, or the gate out, rather, not clock out. Oops. Anyway, got something going there. Did it disappear for a minute? Did the stream quit? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, there we have it. I think that's going to be the patch for today. Any questions? Any thoughts? Still only one cat, but yeah, maybe we'll do this every once in a while. Oh, I stopped moving for a bit. Yeah, tweaking something that we couldn't maybe hear the difference there. Yeah, well, this was an experiment. Figured we'll see what we can get from nothing, and um, could we beef this up? Could we spruce this up? Certainly, I think. But you know, just getting some of the cobwebs out of there and seeing where we can go, and we'll do this. We'll do this again, perhaps, especially if new modules arrive. So yeah, I think the let's see where the poll is at, just to fill us in. What we might end up doing. Let's see. Wait, what's the thing with the green lights that are going left and right? Oh, that's the Roland System 1M, right? That's a Roland self-contained semi-modular system. We didn't really get into that, but uh, it's a few years old now. It's it's got that whole Knight Rider vibe going on when you're not playing it, and once you start playing with it, then it stops doing that kind of sweeping motion across like that. But um, I think everybody who's ever had one has wondered how can we turn that off, but apparently there's no way to do that. Okay, so I'm looking at the poll in terms of when we should do future live streams, and later in the day is winning out. What I think we'll do is maybe do one earlier in the day at one point in the week, one later in the day at another point in the week, and then Saturdays still at noon. So I will be posting on YouTube and everywhere else as I figure that out. I'm leaning towards Tuesday morning and Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, something like that. So at least somebody will be able to make it to some of those, and then we'll do occasional other ones when I'm feeling like it or when we have an excuse to. So we'll see how that all works out. This is all an experiment. It's all ebbing and flowing and changing as time passes and my energy increases or decreases. So, um, yeah, GMO is really cool. There's probably only like 3 or 4 of them left for sale, and they're all the Muffin stuff is really affordable, and the GMO is open source. There's dozens of libraries that you can download and install for it. Creating libraries is a little bit of a challenge, but you can also do looping, so you can do some kind of granular type of lo-fi granular type of stuff with it, and paired with like a random source. The Muffin had one called the Deviant. Um, we can kind of make these things uh, get into that vibe a little bit, but I can't speak highly enough of the GMO and the Muskrat, another really cool weird module from Ross. So yeah, go grab those up while you can. He also makes the Stargazer, which is a self-contained drone synth, and Intensifies, which was a distortion type of device. Really interesting stuff, this guy. So, all right. Well, I'll be back next week. I'll let you know when, and hopefully, I'll have some more modular gifts coming fairly soon. Those after some time. I'm not sure how long it'll take, but those should show up at some point in the GIF searches. So I'll let you know when that happens as well. Um, so, yeah, voltagecontrollab.com. We've got our live stream on that website all the time, so you can always go there. And if you want to follow us on YouTube, subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell. It will notify you when we go live. Follow on Instagram at Voltage Control Lab. Follow on Twitter at V Control Lab. I don't know if that verbose oscillator is available yet. It's hard to tell these days. And if you want to go check out some of my music, I don't know that it will be anything like what we just did, but you can dig around in there on SoundCloud at Computo, on Spotify at Computo, at the Blessed Oscillator on Bandcamp or Spotify, and yeah, we'll keep this on going next week. We'll look to do it on Tuesday morning. Will probably be our next show. Probably 3 hours earlier, 9 a.m. PST is what I'm anticipating, and then another one on Thursday afternoon, probably. We'll see, and hopefully we'll see you guys then, and hope to see you in the YouTube chat or the Instagram or wherever you can come and find me. So, all right. Thanks for spending your spring break with us, you guys. And we'll see you very, very soon next week. Have a good one. Share links to the music. Try this one. All right. Thanks you guys again for coming in here. Bazzy, Mark, HR, Santa, Brian, Ed, Brian, Jolie, Les, Roboclops. All right. See you guys next time. Have a great week.